Hi guys, how are you doing?
Hi guys, hi everyone.
How you doing? You all right?
Oh, feeling better, but it's like a lot of heat around, so
Yeah, it's pretty muggy here in the UK. It's warm, but it's been torrential downpours all day.
oh, we have like very British weather now because we would have rain every, I don't know, 4 hours a day, and then between the two, like hot, so you get like steamy hot.
Yeah, it's like that here. But yeah, it hasn't been every 4 hours. It literally hasn't stopped all day pouring. So what we'll do, we'll give, because we're slightly early, bear with me guys, we'll give it 5 minutes for any stragglers to come in. And then we'll see what develops this evening. See if anyone's got anything interesting to talk about, any RV gossip or anything. Henny's usually good for the gossip.
Oh, I always keep my gossip. That's
Okay, how's my voice? Am I feeling back?
No,
no.
it sounds good.
Daz, I'm actually at Disney right now. I'm here. It started as a work trip. I'm teaching Goofy CRV, but he found the ideogram process too tedious and ended up quitting. So I'm just gonna go ahead and finish out the week here.
No, seriously, he quit.
It's a CRV Disney joke.
Oh, right. I do like the background wallpaper.
Yeah, we're staying at Pop Century Hotel, so it's got 50s, 60s, 70s stuff.
Excellent. Yeah, that's going to be a fun weekend for you. Hey Don, how are you? You doing all right?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Perfect, yeah.
Yeah, I'm coming out from under my rock. Yeah, it's, I had this eye thing, right? It's still, but I'm much better than I was like a month ago. At least I can see. I've got new glasses and, so what's going on is I got one far-sighted eye, which is my natural far-sighted, and this one now is extremely nearsighted. Like I can see stuff like several inches away, but if I take off my glasses, it is like just completely whacked out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to be wearing glasses from now on, looks like.
Yeah. It happens to us as we get older. I don't wear glasses much in front of the computer, but any other time I wear glasses walking about. Otherwise, I can't see much nowadays.
Yeah. Do you have like cataracts or something?
No, just bad vision. I mean, I was born with bad vision. I had astigmatism, so when I was a baby, I had an operation on my eye to turn it because it was like pointed in the wrong direction.
No kidding. This is what my mother had.
Yeah,
that's really interesting.
And then for 10 years, every day, which isn't fun when you're a very young child because you get the mick taken out of you. I had to wear an eye patch every day for 10 years or 12 years. And that was over your, they do that over your good eye.
Oh man.
Yeah, they do that over your good eye to then forces you to use your bad eye to really strengthen the muscles.
Did it work?
It did a bit, but there is a disparity. If I switch between eyes and I'm looking at something, the object moves by about 12 inches in space between the eyes.
Okay, all right. I've got like a several degree sort of disparity going now. Okay, it's like when I look at something, there's a version over here and a version over there, and there's this I don't know what you would call a dyslexia of like, which one am I looking at kind of a thing. So
I have on occasion. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a retraining of my whole visual process.
And of course, being a graphic designer and spending pretty much the last, I don't know, 30 plus years in front of a computer, it's made me, fairly good at this distance of looking at things. But anything away from this distance, it's completely shot now.
Wow.
So Don, Daz was kind of like an RV pirate with the patch on his eye.
I wish it looks that cool. It didn't.
Glenn Wheaton was telling me that I should just go patch. All right. He liked the idea. He's ex-military, and some dudes have got their patches from combat mission. And I don't know. He was strongly, I told him, look, your consciousness is far too strong. Don't you be thinking that Don should be wearing a patch. All right.
It's kind of cool.
Jimmy, I was just going to say the one thing this community could use is more pirates, and you beat me with a punch.
Yeah, there you go.
A pirate patch would be pretty cool. I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think Daz, you could pull it off. I do. I don't think I could pull it off.
I would be willing to go with a pirate patch for definite. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, that guy's a good remote viewer. He's a pirate, man. That's right, man.
We'll all get patches.
If Courtney Brown's viewers can wear cat suits, I can wear an eye patch.
That's right.
Aye, Captain.
That's right.
You tell them swabs exactly what's what. Go for it.
Yeah, Daz, you guys are going to have to, I don't know, the production value on the, my wife's like, shh, we're in a hotel. The production value on those outfits. I mean, you guys are really going to have to, it's going to be like 25% of the budget. It's outrageous.
Yeah.
If I get a solo costume for remote view now.
Just start saying arg a lot.
It's a language. Pirates speak is a language, but Daz and I grew up in the part of the world where it's spoken naturally.
Yeah.
So we can do it without thinking about it. It's really easy. If you grew up there, it's just like turning on a tap. It's so easy, it's untrue. But there you go.
Let me hear you say walk the plank.
Walk the plank, skank! No! Helps with a bit of Irish in there as well. Yeah. It's very angry. It's very angry.
So Pat, is that like some deluxe headphone thing gear you got going there, or
this is actually a really awful knackered pair of headphones. Let me explain. It's holding in a couple of strong wires. You still there?
Yeah, you were fading in and out there for a second.
Yeah, it's a really bad headset, this one. It's just to hold the earplugs in. But the back of it is something a bit more...
What is that? Virtual reality gear. Okay.
But you can wear it on the front, you can wear it on the back, you can wear it on top. Ooh, mantis. If you want the real mantis, Nick, I can do that. This doesn't work yet electrically. I'll sort it while you guys talk. I'll just mince about. I dropped my glasses now, so I've got to find them. Okay, give me 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes.
Daz, give me Pat's address. Daz, give me Pat's address. I'm going to buy him a new pair of headphones there.
No. You can't buy what I've got, mate. What I buy is not for sale. I got it at Covered Market couvert, which means basically stolen goods. Okay, it's an old Norman habit. When the pirates came back from over the ocean with their loot. Here you go. This is what I got. These are not for sale. Absolutely not.
Hey, there you go.
Wow.
Fancy schmancy there, yeah.
Oh man,
the real deal. The real deal.
Yeah,
I walked the plank, matey.
Yeah. Good looking.
Talking about pirates, I actually I think you guys know I live in a city called Bath here in the UK. And my next neighbor to us is Bristol. And coincidentally, that's where Blackbeard first started out. Blackbeard the pirate.
Wow.
There you go.
So
I was on target.
I quite often walk in his footsteps on the shores of the docks there in Bristol.
Wow.
Excellent.
Well, we got with all the beards: Bluebeard, Redbeard, Graybeard, Blackbeard. There are all so many of them.
Can't be a pirate without a beard.
Yeah, I guess so.
In fact, what we should do,
Halfway there.
we should design a pirate RV T-shirt for the community
Pat.
Rose, I like your glasses. That's something
Thank
new, right?
Those are my new glasses. Yeah, my autism shades.
Yeah, they're cool looking.
Thank you.
Excellent, guys. Well, we'll start with some RV stuff now. For anyone that's new to this, I don't think anyone is. I'm looking at the names, but we'll say it anyway. Yeah, if you don't want to put your hand up using the reactions button, usually at the bottom of the screen, to get yourself in line to ask a question, you can also type it into the chat window and someone will ask it for you, because I know some people are a bit shy or don't have microphones still. It's an open chat tonight. I don't think we have any specific topics. It's just, a chance for everyone to get together, to share, to ask questions of each other, and yeah, just a general get together really. So yeah, go. Deborah's got her hand up straight away, so go for it.
Well, I've been preparing. I had some thoughts, in the days leading up to this. In fact, even before I think that you posted there was going to be a meeting, I wanted to share this with you. When I had the dream, when I started interacting with the green alien, through the Far Sight video that I watched, that wasn't the only entity that started communicating with me. And I had this, Kamaya Dunson was talking about this alien, and she called him the Potato Man because his skin, he was really tall and thin, and he had skin that was like a potato. So she called him the Potato Man. And it was really funny because within a few days, I was doing my yoga on the floor and I was having a bit of a hard time. And I'd been sort of feeling like, I guess, a bit depressed. And I was thinking about selling my guitar. I was going to just, okay.
Well, that'll do it.
Practice. Well, here's the thing. I haven't been able to practice, and I was just going to I got enough on my mind. And I even phoned a music store to ask about putting it up, for consignment. And he said, don't do it. Don't sell your guitar. And I'm like, I don't know. So I'm doing my yoga and I roll over and I look up and there's my guitar smiling at me. At the bottom where it has the frets, mine has like a little curve there. And all of a sudden I realized it was Potato Man smiling at me in my guitar. Because I get a lot of spirits talk to me this way. They will show up in something. And it's almost like a pareidolia a lot of the time, the way they sort of materialize. So I thought, Potato Man, and he's smiling at me through my guitar, like, maybe I shouldn't sell my guitar. And just recently, and I'm going to start crying again because I picked up my guitar recently and I started playing again, and it's like, I missed it so much, right? And I really feel like Potato Man stopped me from selling my guitar. And, I just had this other recent experience with this tall gray alien walking through my RV session. And I don't trust the grays at all. I don't feel I should, when I'm interacting, I don't feel there's a reason to trust. But then it's different with the Potato Man. He feels like someone, like a friend. It's strange. And I just wanted to share this because these are all pretty new kinds of experiences, although they're similar to my experiences with spirits. So when a spirit appears to me, I question it. I don't accept it necessarily in case it might be dangerous or lying.
Oh, hang on. I've got this one. It was covered in a big piece on the Reddit, which is sort of like, how do we get Abrahamic, like Jews and Christians and Muslims, to sort of like say RV is cool with our religion? So like a discussion around that. And the Islamic point of view is sometimes you communicate with things which are true, and sometimes they're not true. So if you just try and get it from God, the infinite, the source, whatever, that's always okay. Otherwise, it can be of questionable value. So
well, I would agree with you there, but
I
also
think that agrees with what you said, because you go, okay,
sort of.
go ahead, Potato Head gives you good messages like, hold on, the guitar, you're going to miss that if you would get rid of it. You can
Well,
come
I'm
back to
giving
it,
this,
enjoy it later.
I've given this a lot of thought. And, you know, even when, I mean, just this week too, I've been thinking, because a lot of the time when I feel I'm communicating with the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, it's very similar to the way I get information when I'm remote viewing. I mean, it's almost, it's exactly the same. The information appears, it materializes out of nothing. And it's often not visual. It's often a knowing. And there are other kinds of impressions I get from the Spirit, smells, the whole, it's very similar to remote viewing. But you know, over the years, you know, as I've been following the Spirit, it's not always accurate. You always have to question and get confirmation and make sure, like, you can't just assume that because you ask God that it's God talking to you. I've had lots of times when spirits have tried to fake being the Holy Spirit and try to fool me.
Well, if you're going to go there, you can question it, you can do that as well. But in terms of like producing stuff and getting data to a project manager or something, you've got to put something down on the paper and just let it go and move on. Like the guitar.
Well, I find
make a
those
choice.
immediate things, the things you get
Decide on it.
immediately, often more accurate. As soon as you start thinking about it, you're getting off into conscious thought. So they're really quick information that you get. Same with the Holy Spirit. But my question about the Potato Man is, feel like I can trust him. So I'm starting to get into this understanding of all the different species.
Okay.
And things like
That's the Potato Man? Am I the Potato Man? Is the Potato Man sort of like a stereotype for people?
Well, he was
I don't know.
He's an alien
Who is the
that
Potato Man?
Dudson was seeing. She was
Maybe
seeing,
there's more than one Potato Man. That's what it comes down to.
well, the way that I met the Potato Man was when I was viewing Kamaya Dunson on Farsight, and she was seeing the Potato Man. She liked him too. She thought he was kind of cute. And it's funny because now I can't find this segment. I think they might have edited it out. But
He hit the cutting room floor. Never mind. Things come, things go. There you go.
Thanks for that, guys. The next person, I don't have a name for this. Is someone got their hand up called iPhone 3? Because I guess we got 3 of them here tonight.
That's David.
David, you're up.
Oh, yeah, I guess, yeah, I'm using my phone tonight. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was the iPhone. Thanks, Henny. First of all, so Farsight's remote viewing aliens, huh? I'm glad to hear he's mixing it up. Second of all,
this was a long time ago. This was a while ago.
No, I'm just teasing. But I wanted to say thanks to everybody that had made remarks about this portal situation over at Skidwalker. Thank you for submitting all your sessions. I had not worked that session myself, but I think it's a big win for remote viewers on esoteric targets. And I was glad to see everybody's, sketches and stuff. I was a little disappointed there's still some resistance. I guess my point is at what point do we say this is what this phenomena is? I mean, like what? Because I had made this post and I got a little bit of resistance, which kind of, from the source, it doesn't surprise me at all. But I guess what I'm saying is are we on an agreement on this? I don't know. I just wanted to make a comment. A lot of you guys have worked that session, so I'd love to hear from you guys on that topic.
Who wants to go first? Do you want to go first, Don?
I didn't do that session.
Oh, right.
That would be Henny and Demi and yourself.
Yeah, I can't see anyone else here that I know that's worked it. I know us 3 have definitely worked it, through the Hellfire. I mean, it wasn't exactly the Skinwalker Ranch, but it was the Jay Stratton guy who had the hitchhiker effect happen to him, but he had that happen to him when he was working on the ranch. So it is, it is intimately connected there. Yeah, I don't know what the push. I mean, there's always going to be deniers and pushback, and I think I know who the person that's pushing back on the Facebook place is, and that person always does. Yeah,
But I mean, it's a situation, Daz, where they're actually using where they're scientifically backing up remote viewing data, really, at this point. And they've got a lot of it, and I think that is gonna continue to unfold in that situation.
Yeah.
And it's just it's kind of a bummer that they kind of brush all that under the rug, because they're literally, everything uncovered there is just stuff that we all kind of have seen.
Yeah, you're always going to get some people that want to deny it, but the Skinwalker series, Secret Skinwalker Ranch, and now there's the Beyond Skinwalker Ranch, which is looking at other areas as well. That is producing some very interesting data. And for me, when I found out in series 2 that because I always thought it was a bit, just a bit of fun, the program. I didn't really take it too seriously until I found out that Travis, the scientist guy, was also one of the lead guys working for the Department of Defense for many years on the UAP problem. And that's when it opened my eyes, and I was like, whoa, actually, it's not as farcical as it seems. This guy really does have credentials. And then this series, they started bringing in people like Jay Stratton and a few of the others there. So I really started to set up this series. And the science is really interesting. The last couple of weeks of that series, for those who haven't seen it, they've been using very high-end technology, using LiDAR and lasers and all kinds of stuff. And they think they found some kind of signal of a portal type, wormhole type mechanism that's 30 feet above the ground in a certain location on the Skinwalker Ranch. So it was very interesting technology. And I'm guessing, because this kind of stuff's filmed a year in advance, they did all this stuff like last year, and then they had to make the program in between. I'm guessing there's a lot more to come on this as well. It's indicating that there is.
What did you guys find under the mesa? I know you guys worked this target. I mean, I don't want to give it if anybody hasn't seen it yet, but was it a base or is it a UFO, or what the hell is it?
Well, we didn't, through the hitchhiker one, we didn't, the target, as I said, wasn't exactly the Skinwalker Ranch, it's by association. But, for the majority of the data did pick up some kind of non-human intelligence connection to that area, to the hitchhiker effect, and to the lead guy. What I found interesting was, we did the target, as you know, on the lead guy, Jay Stratton, and his hitchhiker effect, which he got from the Skinwalker Ranch. And what I found interesting was this week's show that we've just watched, where they had, this LiDAR, and they actually saw this effect where something was pushing these the LiDAR kind of rays outwards and stuff, and they recorded it on camera, and they got like the shape of, like a wormhole. What I find extremely interesting is that the guy, the team running that technology was the very same Jay Stratton. He was there. And I'm kind of convinced that it's the whole connection to this is people. And that they're getting their best results when he's there in the vicinity. He is part of what's attracting and generating all this key data. But that's just a kind of theory of mine, looking at certain people within all this kind of research. Because there was a guy called John Hutchinson. I don't know if any of you guys come across him. About 10 years ago, he was pretty famous. I think he's a Canadian guy, if I remember correctly. He had all this weird kind of electronic lab equipment he'd been collecting for like 20, 30 years. And in his own lab, he was able to fuse like metal and wood together on camera. He recorded a lot of this, and he was able to levitate metal, and he was able to like make metal pull itself apart into really weird configurations, all on camera. And he was also visited by the Bigelow team, and I think John Alexander and all the very same people that hightailed it down to the Skinwalker Ranch. And they concluded, after doing research on this Hutchinson, and his videos are on YouTube if any of you want to see it, they concluded that it only happens because he is part of the circuit making the phenomenon happen. And I think that might be what's happening at Skinwalker Ranch as well. It doesn't happen to everyone, you see. I think it's only happening when key people are getting involved. Penny and Libby, do you have anything to add on that from your stuff?
I just wanted to say about Henny. Henny had a lot of important things under Mesa.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. Yeah, I had a piece of exotic technology which is badged under the Mesa, and I had the mountain ridge drawn, and I think I called the location in my stray cat, so I was pretty sure of what I was seeing. And I have some technology underneath it, but it's not like a facility, so it's an object. And that object in my sessions, because I was fascinated with all these kind of things, that object seems to be not in a good shape. It's still functional, but it's somehow running on low resources, or like a system alert, so on a backup system, and not functioning very well. And to tie back to what Des is saying, that people are making the phenomena go up, my session, when I was trying to understand what this like vortice thing is, for me that vortice, as I think I showed you some of my data, is not constantly there. It opens up and it closes down. And why it does that is my understanding why doing the session was that it has like a peripheral area that this object has like senses, like it senses a big area. And I don't know how the technology is working, but it's trying to connect. It's trying to identify the people who are in the area and trying to get a connection. And for some reason, I don't know, maybe that's just me extrapolating from my data. We are not the type of biologicals, or we don't have the capacity to make the connection. So it keeps trying to boot up, but because the link, like the identification link ping is not coming back correct, it goes back, shuts back down to like system alert mode. So that's what my data is showing, that it's trying to identify, it's trying to boot up and connect, but it's not getting back the verification that it needs for the full boot to go up, so it goes back to sleep.
I actually, Henny, Theo had the exact same thing. As far he had made the comment in his session that it's like constantly changing, like it's constantly resetting or something, or changing.
Yeah.
And I kind of kicked him in there, kind of like you throw a kid in a pool of teaching to swim. I'm like, just go in there, go inside. He's like, whoa, he's all discombobulated. But yeah, great data, Henny. I think I had drilling adjacent to that from another project, the ranch next door. So my sense is they're doing a lot of stuff underground there. I feel like there's some big operations going on underneath quietly underground in that area. What it is, I don't know, but interesting. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Anita, you had your hand up next. If you'd like to go next.
Yeah, I just wanted to maybe know a little bit more about Rose and her experience with. So you were watching a Far Sight video about an alien, and it came through to your house.
Here's what happened. The whole thing started with the green alien. So Kamaya, there was a series of viewers, including Kamaya, Aziz, Yemi, Janae, and some of the others that have left and have been replaced. So I'm watching Kamaya, and she starts talking about this alien's head and the shape of it. And that's when I drew the alien's head, and I showed you the drawings, and I drew its brain, and I drew how it was seeing, and it started talking to me. And then I had the dream either that night or the next night, of the green alien on a spaceship, and he was furious and terrifying and moving without actually walking. He was like zipping around, and I was like down, and I'm gonna draw. I have to make a painting of it because I have the whole bridge of this thing. It was a spaceship for sure. So, okay, so there was that, and then in the following days, I was having sort of like a normal visions that I usually have, except they were of aliens. So I had a vision of insectoid type alien, which I drew, but it wasn't a mantis. It was more, it was clear. Its arms were sort of tubes and they were clear, and it had black compound eyes on its head. It was like a fly, but not a fly. But it was very delicate and also extremely gentle and not scary at all. It was like the most sweetest, nicest insect you could ever meet.
Insectoids. How many people here who remote view have the experience that it can be almost any session that an alien being visits you and they're hostile and they tell you they don't like that you're remote viewing because they don't want you to see them? And is this some of the things that Ingo was experiencing and he was warning about? And
these ones weren't like that. And then, like I said, the way I saw the potato man was when I was doing yoga and he was in the guitar because I was thinking of selling the guitar. And that was all within a week of my dream and my experience with Kamaya. And she had mentioned the potato man as another part of her remote viewing. And I felt him around he's still around. That's what I'm saying. Like this one seems to have like attached itself to me, and he showed up in a pattern on one of my paisley bags, and he encourages. It's like an encouraging spirit, just like some of the other kind of spirits that I communicate with who are encouraging me. Same with this potato man. And sometimes I wondered if maybe he's an RVer disguised as potato man. I'm not sure who he is, but seems very friendly, stopped me from selling my guitar. And he's just like a presence in my life now. And it's like I can talk to them whenever I want. If I wanted to talk to that green alien, I can reach out and sense his mind, and his mind is unbelievable. You go into his mind and it's just like massive. It covers like so much. And it's like you hear the wind blow, in his mind. I don't know how to express it, but yeah, so this is the kind of experience I'm having. It was like I got entangled in Kamaya's signal, and that
they came through to
alien
visit
maybe
you.
sensed me and sort of came to me and let me see them, but they're not being mean to you.
I have a problem for maybe a year now. I'm not allowed to talk about it. I want to say it, but I'm not allowed. I get visits from aliens almost every session now, and they're seeing me as a threat. And I'm just wondering, I'm trying to keep this as a secret. How many of you also have this secret? How many of you have the Hat Man? It's kind of a man in black. It's a white alien hat. I'm not allowed to talk about him. This is serious.
Okay. If
How
you're
many
not
of
allowed
you
to
guys
talk about
have
it,
the same secret as I have?
okay, if you're not allowed to talk about it, Rose, just a quick point for you. I was trying to butt in, but I was muted. My fault. There's this thing called archetypes, yeah? Like types of people. I'm not that type, I'm not this type. I'm that type.
No, I understand. That's very Jungian, isn't it?
There is one
right?
for the green alien, and that's the green man, which appears a lot in folklore.
Right, the green man. I've seen
You've
him
heard of
on
the green
Twitter.
man, yeah. It can be the same thing.
Thing about the green man, but this was definitely an alien. He was glowing green.
Yeah. Well, I've had them overhead, literally like, within eyesight in the ship. So I'm like, people get them by RV, fine. That's, if they're actually in your face waving at you, it's a whole different level. So, whatever.
Well, it seems to me there's something going on at Farsight, like that. I've
Well,
never
Farsight,
had
like
that kind of
aliens,
thing happen to me
yes.
before, where a spirit sort of followed me from somewhere. Although in church, I did have some interesting stuff showing up there too. So
Well, just do your thing, you know. Just do your thing anyway. If you've got to let it stop you or
what are you
prevent you,
gonna
or you've got to
do,
be
right?
secretive about it, then what's the point? You might as well just get on with your life. Just
Well, you
saying this
just
is
gotta-
there. I'm doing it anyway.
You got to sort of just say what you see and sort of be honest about it. I mean, I saw dragons, for instance, flying over the church one day when this guy from Newark was speaking, and he was very concerned. He was a wonderful guy speaking about adopting communities, and I saw these two black dragons flying over, and I had some misgivings about this particular individual, and it turns out I might have been right about that. But I mean, dragons, they don't even exist, and yet, you know, in the Bible, you've got God as a dragon. There's dragons in all kinds of ancient literature. So
there's a lot of dinosaurs you actually see the skeletons of. They were
there are
dragons that
dinosaurs,
walked
but
around
this
too.
is a weird vision. But that's what I'm saying. You see weird things, you see them. There's nothing you can do about it. There it was. I saw it. That's that. You know, now what do we make of it, right? But yeah, if it's I see it as I began to go into this realm. My mentor was an exorcist herself, and she warned me very soon as I became interested in the Holy Spirit, following the Holy Spirit. She warned me, you be really careful, and don't you go spending a lot of your time and attention on satanic things or those kinds of things. And I really took her advice, and I avoided all that kind of stuff, even though I'm working at my uncle's restaurant and there's Juliet, the psychic, there for years, right? I stayed away from all of that. I didn't go there. I took her warning, and it was good because I'm pretty naive and I get manipulated pretty easily as an autistic person. So it's good that I stayed away. But as I began to approach it and learn about the Holy Spirit, I realized there's nothing to be afraid of, because when I go with the Holy Spirit, I have protection. And I have also authority and power to tell the spirits what to do, and they have to listen to me. That's the rule I learned anyway in all my studies, is that when I invoke the Holy Spirit, I have authority over other spirits. So it gives me protection, and in a lot of ways. And I could go on and on about that. But so it's important not to be afraid of these things. I mean, I know I was scared of the green alien because I'm scared of horror movies, and he was really scared, but deep down, I'm not really scared. I'm sort of superficially, I'm scared because he's scary, but deep down, I know that I'm safe. I know that I'm protected, and this alien's not going to hurt me. Neither is any man in a black hat. Like, you can't be afraid of them, because we have power as human beings. And this is, I think, what we're going to start getting into.
I'm not afraid. The first night I saw the Hat Man, I was scared because he has a really scary vibe. But I worked really hard to make friends with him. But he's starting to become hostile, and it's becoming a problem. Daz, you've been remote viewing maybe the longest. Have aliens ever come to talk to you? And do you recognize these kinds of things?
Questions. Yes to both those, but not within my remote viewing construct. In my previous psychic life before remote viewing, and during my early days of remote viewing, actually, because they did work. I did do both in tandem for the first, I think, 10 years of my remote viewing training. I was still doing my classical stuff at the same time. But I never allowed the classical psychic communications to cross over with my RV communications, and still to this day it doesn't work that way for me. But yeah, within the classical stuff, and although I don't publicize it, I did write a book about my communications and interactions with all different kinds of strange non-human life, and some of that was quite violent. Yes. So yes.
Surfing the psychic internet, you can get it on Kindle.
Yes, surfing psychic internet. I try not to. I don't publicize it because I try not to mix that with remote viewing. You see, it's not remote viewing. But yeah, I did have violent interactions with these, but they weren't all bad entities, and that was done through channeling. I was in a psychic circle group where we did advanced kind of techniques to go off into the universe using meditation to see what we could locate and interact with naively. And bear with me a sec, I've got to let someone in here. Some of the experiences were good, with very influential, nice, peaceful beings that want to see human development. But there is also the other side of the coin. There are darker beings out there that want to impede human development. It's it's like everything in life. You go out on the internet. Well, it's like coming into this chat room. I'm sure there's nice people in this chat room and there's bad people in this chat room. It's the same for everything. Yeah. So this stuff exists, but there are also techniques that you can learn. Classic set techniques, psychic protection techniques, to help you impede what they're trying to do to you. And it all comes down to your state of mind. And my state of mind does not allow this kind of thing to happen within my RV. If you're different, then as all as individuals, then it might happen for you depending on your belief systems.
And confidence.
And confidence, yes. Confidence is a huge, big thing. Confidence, trust, and belief system. And that's a big thing as well in believing and interacting with any kind of non-human intelligence. I'm not saying they're aliens, because I think aliens are a bit of we don't know any of this is alien. But yeah, confidence, trust in yourself, and trust in your belief system, and in your belief system helps in all that. I'm not sure if I told you guys, but even in my classical psychic days, I was also involved in a couple of exorcisms myself as part of an exorcism team, trying to rid properties of entities that were doing harmful stuff to the people that lived there and stuff. And even that comes down to your strong belief system and your confidence and trust within the team of people that you're working with.
Have you ever experienced apparitions, Des?
I'm just trying to think. Apparitions is it's a strong word.
Yeah, no, that's the real deal.
I haven't seen anything like I can see this screen in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen many things that I can see with the the distant reaches of your eye, the rods and cones on the side of your vision.
Have you experienced what do they call them? Orbs?
Not so much. No, not so much orbs. Myself, my parts of my family did growing up.
In the house?
In this very house that I'm still in now, because I've been in this house now. I don't know if I've told you guys this as well, but this was my parents' house. So I've actually been in this same house now for 48 years. Because I grew up here. I moved here when I was about, I think, 7 years old. And I've pretty much been here ever since. So my mother and my sister, and I think I told you guys, my mother was quite an accomplished medium, psychic, and healer. She first saw orbs and stuff. And my sister,
that whole thing with the orbs. Once you get into some of this stuff, you start expanding your awareness to, there's more than just physical ETs. I think there's like these microscopic
absolutely, yeah,
intelligences, larger orbs, which, I can't figure out whether that's like a cluster of, micro intelligences coming together to for self-protection or whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on.
They're outside of RV, because RV is a very straight line, small niche. If you're dissecting a circle of psychic or paranormal experiences, I would say RV would be a tiny little sliver at the top, like 1%. of the entire circle. So 99% of the stuff out there that's going on in all the other RV, not non-RV disciplines, encompasses all different kinds of life, you know. And because of what I've been involved with and my many years of research, I'm absolutely convinced, you know, all the old things like fairies, trolls, you know, dwarfs, gnomes, all those beings probably exist on some level.
I
of
see all
reality.
those things too. It's really weird. I see gnomes, elves, little creatures of all kinds. Yep. It's weird, but I see them. I'm not
Absolutely.
ashamed.
Yeah. anything from old nursery rhymes, all that kind of
So
stuff have a
weird.
basis in
At
reality.
my old work, at one of the places I worked recently, the yard, and this is in a city, it had some trees and a tiny garden. There was this little gnome thing, and I'm a remote viewer, so I'm used to the idea of seeing things that aren't here, but it's this little creature that looks kind of like it's made out of a tree root, and it talks to me every time. And I, of course, I'm just going to roll with it and not think I'm crazy. I have a perceptive mind. Yeah. And I've seen all kinds of other similar things, and I'll talk to it.
Yeah. Yeah, the universe out there is huge, guys. And if you RV would expand your consciousness, undoubtedly. But you should also, if you are interested in this kind of stuff, but with caution, explore the other practices as well, because the other practices out there, they've been around a lot longer in RV, and they can give you a different way of looking at and interacting with some of this information if you want to. But beware, you have to be careful. You have to be careful who you pick, who you go with, who you trust, because you're like RV, you're opening yourself up. But with the other practices, especially if you go into things like channeling, or when you try to get a ports to come through, or if you try to do materialization of the etheric kind of realms and stuff, that's quite a lot more in depth than what you do with RV, and you're playing with a lot of realms that we don't really quite know what the interaction is. So you have to be a bit more, I would say you have to be quite a bit more careful than when you're playing with RV. But it's, there is amazing stuff out there that RV can't touch on, I'm afraid. RV is very good at what it does, is getting very focused, specific information from non-local kind of awareness. But if you want interaction with other beings, be it aliens, gnomes, fairies, all kinds of weird stuff, that's possible out there as well. And there are many books out there on how to do that kind of stuff. I can see that Paul's had his hand up for a while. Paul, would you like to go with what you want to ask or talk about?
Yeah, Des. I've had personal experience with other entities, both this dimension and other dimensions. There's no question about that. But I just wanted to point out that not everything that you see is going to be non-human, because the U.S. Air Force and probably other militaries too have had anti-gravity and other technologies for probably at least 50 years, maybe closer to 70. I can tell you that I have personally seen a U.S. Air Force, United States Air Force flying saucer in flight over Sacramento, California in 1972. I'll post a link on the chat, and you can take a look at what I saw by just looking at that link. And it, I don't know how it's powered. Some people say it's powered by magnetism of some sort. But the point is that some of the stuff that you're going to see out there, certainly as technology and possibly even as entities, could actually be some sort of human endeavor and not necessarily extraterrestrial. So I just think you need to be aware that, it's trying to sort all this stuff out can be a bit of a challenge. I think remote viewing will help that. Some of the other methods of understanding these things can help that, but not everything that looks strange is extraterrestrial. Some of it is, some of it is not.
Don't you get the impression, Paul, that our government has become so compartmentalized that it doesn't even know what it's doing?
Yeah, I think there's a certain separation of knowledge. It gets hard to penetrate it, and there's a lot of disinformation too. So there's a guy named Dr. Stephen Greer who's an emergency room doctor, just like I am, and I don't trust him as far as I can drop kick him out the window. I think he's very deceptive in what he presents. Some of it's accurate and some of it's not. But I think you just have to be very cautious about what you believe. If you don't understand it personally, then just do more research until you got it clear.
Excellent. Thanks for that, and thanks for sharing. And the link's there in the chat if anyone wants to have a look at that one. Dimi, you've had your hand up for a while. Would you like to go?
Yes, thank you. I just want to switch a little bit to another area. So I want to know what are the pitfalls on tasking targets. And so as I learned from you, I understand that you have to have, in order to have well-connected data, fluent and objective, you have the task to be simple, direct and non-evasive. Because you said also that later we can revisit it or retask it, and if are like burning questions, we can put there and go further. So, but I have a thing to say to this, because I've got let's say a bad tasking. When I task, when I have the skin-water wrench hitchhiker effect, I recall that I was having 3 sub-cues under my task. Now I know that is not correct, and it's too much. It's stretched too much on the target itself. But, however, the RVers came back with absolutely amazing data, and I wonder what's happening here in the end, because absolutely everyone ended up in describing the same thing from their point of view, adding or subtracting something from to the main point, to the main subject or idea of the target. So I just want to know what are the pitfalls of targeting, tasking a target, and also how would you task, let's say, a future device, or like in the next 30 years that is going to fly or is going to bring up food from our apartments, or how would you do this in order to be specific and to be clear in your tasking and to be correct in the end? Thank you.
Whoa, that's a lot you've asked for there. Okay, the first bit, if I can remember exactly what you said here. I can't remember what the hitchhiker tasking was, but yeah, you may have had more than one aim or goal questions about a better word to use. Yeah, and you said use 3 subtasks, I think you said. Everyone can do this differently. I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to task, although I consider my way to be the right way. But it's essentially keep it simple. It's always with me, keep it simple. A lot of people within everything we do tend to overcomplicate everything. I try to look in the other direction and try to oversimplify. I try to simplify everything. And I find that I've gone through a process for several months now of getting some quite heavy targets through crypto viewing, where we've had 2 or 3, maybe even more than that, subtasks. So the target itself is asking 4 questions all at once.
Yeah.
And you find that generally a good team of remote viewers can eventually, in their RV sessions, get the data, and they get it good enough to get good target results. But it's the data will not be as succinct. It will be a bit more messy, with bits over here, bits over there, each answering the question, but not in a cohesive, nice order. So, you know, I always try to, and whenever I have a client come to me and say, I want to, you know, I want to task you or some remote viewers to work a target, and it's always the same. A client will come to you and they'll say, I want to know this, and this, you know, because they're really excited. They think remote viewing is amazing and they don't know how it works. They just think you're like Chat GPT, you know, you can like get them every answer, everything on at once. So you have to manage their expectations. And I just, you know, I say to everyone, and this is how I target as well. I say, you know, it's best to task a remote viewer a single question at a time, you know, so you have a single want, a single kind of intent in your mind and down on paper, because you're also using that tasking later on to look at that remote viewer's data and say you're to yourself and to them that this is how accurate you are, because this is what I wanted you to look at, and I'm basing what I've told you to look at here in my tasking on what you've got in your data for your accuracy. You know, if there are 4 messy questions on this sheet of paper, you know, some of them may be intangible. You don't really know what they're kind of asking. And then you're trying to assess the remote viewer's data against that. It's not a good tool to do that for either party. So yeah, my way is keep it simple. And, you know, I usually have a what, where, and when. You know, so it'd be like Eiffel Tower in Paris, France, and then when could be anything. You know, time of construction, time of the photograph, right now, 100 years ago. You pick the date. So what you want them to view, where it is in the world or universe, and what time zone you want them to go to. And then I'll just have a simple cue like, you know, the remote viewers to move to the optimum location at this time, this date, to remote view this, you know, and sketch and describe it in detail, you know, so something simple as that. And then when they come back to me with loads of data and I see that they might have some good sketches and stuff like that, if I have an additional question, I will then go back to them and say, you know, on page 6, you drew this sketch, go back and get me more data. You know, it's as simple as that. Or you can even not even retask them on their own information. If they do a first session on it and you're happy with it, you can then go back to the remote viewer and say, okay, I'm happy with that so far. I have a second tasking for you. And you could give them a whole new different number with a whole new different question. So instead of it being look at the Eiffel Tower, it could be now move to the restaurant on the Eiffel Tower and tell me what people are eating. That could be your second question, but you say it separately at a different time, not all 3 questions all in one big lump, because that's just overpowering the remote viewer, you know, because although we're all learning, we're all getting better at this, and we have varying levels of skill, we have to be completely honest, the bandwidth of information for remote viewing, you know, as it comes through each of us as remote viewers through our kind of like kinesthetic way onto paper, it's a very small bandwidth. You know, it's hardly any information that's coming through that we have to interpret and get down on paper. It's not like when you're using the internet, you know, you're watching a 4K video, which is huge amounts of bandwidth, huge amounts of information. We don't have that luxury as remote viewers, so we have to be very succinct in our targeting. So that's answered that. What else was it, Demi, you wanted to know, or did that cover it?
Well,
the future target.
Yeah.
A future target for a technology. I don't know what the technology would be, but let's say I wanted a team of remote viewers to tell me what the iPhone in 20 years was going to look like. I would say something, you know, so the what, it would be, I guess it would still be called Apple then as a company. That's the only thing you have to go on. So I would probably use something like the company that exists now as Apple's best consumer technology, and then for the where, well, I would probably say that would be globally used on Earth, because it would exist everywhere because everyone uses it. And then I would have the when, which would be, you know, maybe a time frame something like 2045. So that would be something like that would be my main cue. You know, I would play with it. I don't do this kind of thing fast. I try to really think about what I would use. So, but you know, you'd have the what, the where, and the when. So yeah, Apple's most used consumer technology, globally used in, I don't know, and yeah, time zone 2045, say, you know, the entire year of 2045. And then the queue underneath would be something like the remote viewers to move to the optimum location and time in 2045, and to describe and sketch in detail the latest technology from the company Apple that's used by consumers globally, and to do this, only this, you know, something like that it would be.
Okay, thank you. I will take into consideration. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Hey,
You know,
just a quick follow-up on what you're talking about there, Des. Have you ever tasked several target numbers concurrently to kind of crossfire into, you know, a target to get different questions answered about the target?
I haven't, and it might be an interesting thing to try. I just worry though that we don't know how any of this works, and the evidence indicates that the driving force behind remote viewing is the intent of the tasker. And I'm kind of worried that if I had 4 different intents for the same target going in my mind at once, it would be just as much as having 4 sub queues. You know, it might confuse the remote viewer.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about tasking everybody with those. I was thinking about tasking individuals with different tasks that each kind of like build together, but it coming from a different direction.
But that's what will worry me, was that, you know, if I tasked you with intent A, but I'm also still in my mind thinking about intent B, C, D, you might also, because you're picking things from my head, you might pick up on intent B, C, D as well.
Oh,
as
I see. Yeah.
Because they all exist all at once. I see. It's my belief. I can't prove this other than experience, that if I was tasking you a target, like, you know, as we do, like, I'm not sure you're getting information from outside or the matrix. I think there is some level of you and me are having a personal internal dialogue, and you're getting at least a coordinate, or you're getting some kind of information from me on what I want. And if I'm thinking about, if I'm giving you A, but I'm also thinking about B, C, and D, there's no reason why you can't also get B, C, and D off of me.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
So I would worry that might occur.
Yeah, I just mentioned it because John Vivanco talked about projects that he hooked up that way and discussed in one of his videos, and it just intrigued me, the idea of, like, you know, getting this crossfire action going.
I mean, I would use something similar to that if I had money and funding and a professional RV team working, you know, projects for someone. You know, let's say it's all paid. You know, there's 20 million funding, everyone's being paid, so you've got full-time jobs, you as project managers and the taskers and the viewers and everything, so you're all settled, no worries about money or anything like that. I would create a team where I would do something similar to that. So if I had a project that would say, look at I don't know, let's pick something, the Roswell UFO crash, for example. I would pick, and I would task not all the remote viewers on the same targets. I would task an architect and an engineer to look at the craft and the technology. I would task a biologist or a psychologist or a nurse or doctor to examine what the ETs or whatever it is driving the vehicle.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I like the.
Why would you get an engineer to look at a biological thing when you don't need to? When you've got people that in their real life experience look at biological things all the time. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. Take advantage of what you bring to the table as a viewer.
Absolutely, because we all bring our life skills from our day-to-day works and jobs to our RV skills. You know, I can to some degree get into the technical details of engines and that kind of stuff within UFOs and anything, but it's only through the fact that I'm pretty good at sketching, because I'm an artist, that allows me to do that. I don't actually have any kind of understanding engineer wise in anything that I'm seeing, which is going to be a bit of a deficit, I would have thought. So I would create a team of, and I think I've said this in the past, an engineer, scientist, a nurse or doctor or psychologist, an artist, and an architect. And I think with a team of one of each of those, you would have pretty much every target covered. And yeah, and as you just said, I would give each viewer a specific target, but only that bit that I'd want them to look at. I wouldn't want everyone to look at the craft and everyone to look at the ET, because that would make no sense. Because, you know, in operations as well, it's also about time and money as well. You don't want 5 remote viewers to do a shotgun approach at looking at the craft, do a shotgun approach looking at the people driving it, do a shotgun approach trying to find out where the technology went afterwards and all that kind of stuff. That's a lot of time. So you really need to use your best resources in the best areas as fast as possible as well.
A very good point. Thank you. Yeah.
Sorry, we've got lots of hands up here. Sorry, Pat, go for it. You had your hand. You're first on my list.
That's okay. That's okay. Because just got points about tasking still, which haven't been mentioned or skimmed over a bit. You mentioned about retasking, where you just get a viewer's session, you say, right, go back to this bit and expand on that. One thing Teresa Frisch was really good when she was around RB was, if you had a session which, let's say, it wasn't very good on a practice target, if you just take you back to before you did the well and say, right, this bit, you perceive it as water, just carry on from there. Forget the rest of it you did after that, just go back to that bit and start again from there. So that's one way to pick up what seems like a blown session. You can, if you're at the task, you can retask and get the viewer back on target. It takes longer, but it's possible. And the other point is, when you're tasking, leave out the nouns. If you're going to task a future product, right, don't talk about Apple. Apple might not exist in 20 years. We don't know. There might not be a consumer market. We don't know. But if you think of the purpose, tell me the current communication standard for video, or for virtual reality, 3D immersion, or for direct mind-to-mind experience, telepathy. If you think of the purpose of the technology, that's a solid basis. That's going to be there in some extent. And that'll be able to waste it. That's in the future. Right? The problem is that's the preconceptions. Get in the way of it's not much to be.
Yeah, Pat, you're breaking up.
Yeah,
You're breaking up, Pat,
yeah, we can't really hear you, Pat. You've got no R2D2 on us.
but really interesting what you said. Yeah.
Okay. What the task has to avoid preconceptions in a task.
We can't hear you, Pat.
Consumer market.
Pat, we can't.
On Discord.
Pat, we can't hear you. You're breaking up too much.
We'll come back.
Yeah, maybe you need to reconnect. Your bandwidth's gone a bit weird. While Pat's doing that, guys, I think Deborah's next on the list.
Yeah, I just had a brief, I'm trying to find it in this book by Joe McMoneagle. He talks about when you're tasking, I think he says something to the effect of there should be at least 3 elements. And 2 of the elements may be known to this remote viewer, but 1 is not known. So where, when, and what, the viewer could know 2 of those things and then try to be finding the 3rd. Do you remember that at all, Daz? I'm trying to find it in the book and I can't find it. So
not off the top of my head, but if it's anywhere, it'd be in remote viewing secrets, I think.
Yeah, it was in this book. Oh, what's it called? This one, Mind Trek, the one that I read. I've only read the 1 book of his, so that's where I saw him saying that. But that seems like front loading. So I'm going to try and find it again. But right now, unfortunately, I can't find it. But that seems to me what he said. Like the viewer can have 2 bits of information.
I'll see if I can find it. Yeah.
Look for the third.
Yeah. And on, you know, you've mentioned front loading, and me and Dimi had a bit of a conversation on this the other night. Because Dimi, like a lot of RVers out there, have a problem with front loading. And I think it's because people misinterpret the word front loading. And I was asking Dimi, why does she have a problem with it? Because I was saying, you know, operationally, if I wanted you to hone in on a target, I want you to do it fast, you know, because, you know, I'm paying you, let's say, and I don't want you to do a session and then for me to come back and say, oh yeah, you did pick up here on page such and such. Can you go back and get me more? You know, I want to get you there faster. But you still be very blind to the target. As a community, what would you guys have a problem if, for example, you were told the target is a life form, or let's say a person. Let's say if I said to you as front loading, the target is a person, and knowing that, you know, it's any person that's alive now or any person that's been alive in the past or even in the future. So you're talking billions and billions of possibilities there. Do you guys not see that as a valid RV target?
I think it's valid.
I would have no problem with that.
I would consider it. I would consider it a little bit of a front load, but I would definitely consider it valid. It's a lot of options there.
Yeah,
I prefer
I mean,
fully
even if you're,
blind.
no matter what you're going to bump into that person. I mean, if you're on target, you're going to bump into them anyway. So that, you know.
Hey, Daz, I'm being trained right now by Angela, as you know, and part of this discussing actually training is I'm going to have to accept front loading in an operational use. For an example, we're doing kidnapping cases and location cases and stuff. So I'm front loaded ahead of time saying there's a missing boy. His last scene was over in the Southwest. Identify everything you can get, you know, using for RV method or any kind of psychic method you want. And you have 15 minutes. There's a timeline. You said it's very quickly done. No thinking, just do it. It's the same idea as Ed made testing, which is go ahead, describe the picture. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no numbers. You have to automatically learn to turn it on.
Yes.
Whatever whatever you want to call this ability, psychic, remote viewing, whatever, it doesn't matter. Just I look at it as just data. That's all. And I've come to the conclusion that everybody can do it. It's just like anything else. You got to practice and you got to fail. And then when you get better at it, you know, the word front loading now to me doesn't mean like it used to a couple of years ago, which is, oh no, I got to be blind. Like I can't do it, blah, 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 that type of thing. You have to train yourself to get rid of the words, just listen what comes in, write it down, and that's it. And you move on. If you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're right, if you're correct, you can always do it again. And that's it. And that's what we learned. I learned today with Angela. She front loaded me right to almost saying exactly where I was supposed to be, except she didn't. And it was my job to instantaneously, within 10 minutes, pick the target or get close to it. And it's a hard concept. I really believe that most remote viewers, when they start off, can comprehend because they think front loading is cheating or something or whatever, and it's not. It's a whole different, it's a next level. I mean, the training I'm learning now is twice as hard as it was 2 years ago. And I'm glad because it pushes you.
Yeah.
It makes you try harder. It makes you realize that, hey, these guys that are professionally doing operational, yes, they're front loaded to a degree, and it's harder actually when you're front loaded than it is to be a blank, double blind or triple blind or whatever. Yeah. So it's hard. It's not easy.
I don't like to hear this. I know. I just hate it.
Why?
We're operational viewers. You wouldn't understand. We have to do front loading, monitor present, retasking. They're telling you that. I mean, we have this conversation all the time.
How are you doing your biological profiles? Like, Anita, if someone doesn't tell you that your person is a target, but you're still knowing that you are working from a person pool and you are going to do a person profile, you are working front loaded because you know your target category. So every time you put out a session, which is a person profile, that is a front-loaded session because you are going into your remote viewing session knowing full well that you are going to work a person target. I don't have to tell you you are going to work a person target. Your tasker doesn't have to tell you. You are knowing you are working from a person pool, and your target category is a person, and you are going to create a person profile. So every single time you do that, you are working front loaded, whether you like hearing that or not.
I know what I'm reacting to is we're getting really professional. I'm advanced level. We're operational viewers. And now we have a lot of front loading. We have a monitor present who's telling us, no, don't go there, go here.
But
and if I fail, I get a
who works like that?
retest. That's what
Anita,
it
no one's
sounds
saying
like.
they work like that.
It
Who's
just
saying they
sounds
work like
like
that?
nobody always, I just heard it from Jimmy right now. I just react to it. You know, the better you are, the more advanced you are, the more easy way you get. You get collaborators who are really giving you a lot of push.
It doesn't work like that, Anita.
No, but it sounds like it. Okay, someone please give me
we
an
don't get to set the
operational
parameters,
session.
though.
Someone
As the
please send me
viewers-
operational target and let me do it blind. Let's just try it.
Hey, quick, Jimmy, what you described, locating the, finding the location, is that a map task? Are you
Nope.
like working with a map?
You can. I'm learning 3 different methods from Angela that she used in real world operations. This is not like I've seen before on any. I'm sure Daz is familiar with some of the. What she's trying to do is separate what Daz said earlier about there's different methodologies, or at least understanding where information comes in. And I mean by that is like slivers of information. So if you're used to doing a cool down first and then relaxing and then doing your remote viewing session and writing it down, this is not that. This is the same, getting information, but retraining yourself how to do it quickly without thinking, without learning a cool down. It's real. This is what real world, according to Angela and Ed Main, Joe McMonagle, and the rest of the top level guys do. This is not like we consider in this community here as like, we got 2 weeks to do a project. Let's do it when we feel good, and that type of thing. It's not that in the real world. Under real conditions, you're given a short period of time, usually less than an hour, and then you're put into a room by yourself or with somebody watching you, and you're doing real things. Identify. We just had a kidnapping case. I'm on the phone now with an agent. I need you immediately to do what you're trained to do. Click it on, turn it on, do it now.
Yeah.
And that's how it really works in the real world. Now, I'm not used to this. I'm learning it. So I can see where, if you're trained a normal way of training where you can have the luxury of relaxing and going in your own environment and stuff, she's taking me out of that for a reason. She wants to push me into a new way of adapting how to get information. Now, it's still considered remote viewing. Now, some people would say, well, that's just psychic functioning. Well, it's all psychic functioning. It's just relearning when the information comes in. Like when I got, all of a sudden, it was dark, it was near water, it was near a boat. I'm working blazing fast on a piece of paper. I'm not thinking, I'm just writing it down. It's near water. Okay, the person was smoker, blah, blah, blah. I keep going. Okay, the operation concluded in the evening, at nighttime. It was not a daylight operation. And she stopped me and she said, you're correct. I remember how that felt. What did you feel? Write down what you felt. And I felt, I feel kind of lousy because a little boy got kidnapped. I feel kind of, write it down. And what you're doing is reprogramming your nervous system in your brain to identify that way you did it. And that's one of the methods I'm currently learning. Now, that's not easy.
Can I just say, Jimmy, like I read Mind Trek, and actually Joe McMonagle did a lot of cooling down. He did the Monroe Institute. He was using binaural beats. He was out of it a lot of the time. Although, like you say, I think it's important to be able to not have a cool down and still be able to do remote viewing. I think I agree. What an excellent exercise you're doing. It sounds amazing.
Hard. It's not, I mean, I think Daz will admit remote viewing is not easy. Okay, we can make it seem easy at times and stuff, but remote viewing is like anything else you want to get good at. Like learning an instrument, doing art, doing photography. It don't matter. It's the same idea. You got to retrain yourself. You got to train. You got to fail. and you got to accept that you're not perfect at it. Watch, one thing Ed made it very clear to me. You know, I hit the first couple of targets during testing. He says, Jimmy, that's great. I hope you're having fun. But listen, it's normal to fail. You can learn more by failing and adapting to the failure than just being on target site all the time. You think you're fucking great. And he said, made it very clear to me that the best remote viewers, Joe McMonagle and others, have all failed, regardless of their long-term percentage of being hits. So you have to adapt. You have to be, you know, think differently. I know Daz, like when he does targets, he rewords them differently, and he tries different things. And that's so important for our minds when we start remote viewing, and especially when we're, you know, in the first few years or whatever, we develop perceptions differently and stuff. I mean, I'm just fortunate that Angela and I get along so well, where she can tell me extra things during our sessions and training and stuff, which I would never have known and never hear about, which is real world operational work. And it's mind bending, you know, it makes your mind think like, wow, man, this is crazy stuff. I don't know if I could do it in the real world. I don't know if I could be brought into a room, federal agents next to you saying, you've got 30 minutes, I need 2 locations. And that's all you get. You don't get a tasking number. You don't get the person look like this. You get nothing. And you have to, through your training and intuitive skills and everything else, just go for it. No thinking. And you have to be like Daz. I don't give a crap what I give out. That's a good attitude, because you're pushing your left side of your brain away, your analytical thinking side, and you're just doing what we have in our brains. You're getting information, write it down. And if a 1 page is enough, that's all you need. That's it. That's real world operational stuff, the way I was told. Yeah. And I trust her.
Thanks for sharing that, Jimmy. Anita, I can see you holding your head in your hands though. So let's try to talk about this. So I'm tasking you a target, right? A professional target. You know, I need an answer fast. You know, I'm paying you.
I don't do fast.
Well, you will have to if you're working. So
okay.
What would be the problem in me saying to you, your target is a life form? What
not a problem. That's not a problem.
Information is that? So front loading is okay then?
To some extent. It's just that whenever operational viewers start talking, they got front loading, lots of it. They have
but I'm an operational.
That's just the beginning.
I'm an operational remote viewer. I work every single 3-4 times a week doing this, and I'm telling you, you know, it's very front loading is simple. So
I use front loading. I mean, if like Henny said, when I do my people portraits, I know it's people. How can I not know? I prepared the pool. It's just the operational remote viewers. They have front loading. Okay, to some extent, lots of it. They have a person collaborating.
You're adding to.
They have retasking. They got all kinds of stuff.
You're saying lots of it. Like when I'm doing, like I do crypto targets every week. I know I'm doing a crypto target, but all I know is the target is a crypto, and there's 30,000 of them. So that's not lots of front loading. It's a chance of 1 in 30,000 of getting it correct.
People who become advanced operational viewers, I get worked up over this. Sorry, because the operational viewers like to talk down on the non-operational. You wouldn't understand, they say.
They don't know.
Can operational viewers still do a normal blind target with absolutely no help?
Yes.
Can I send you a target, Daz, with no front loading, no retasking, no help? See, why not? Why can't you do it? Because you're not accustomed.
Because I have to trust my taskers, and I don't trust you.
You don't trust me.
I'll trust you.
No.
I'll trust you. I'll do it. I'll trust you.
I don't think you can, guys. You get accustomed to all the support and help.
That's just crazy. Look at the Hellfire work we're doing. None of those are front loaded. You've seen my RV sessions on that. And? So how can you say I can't do it?
Operational viewers get a lot of help.
They do not all the time. Knowing a target is a crypto.
Retask after they fail a session and they get a retask.
No.
Then they fail again and they get a retask and a retask and a retask until they narrow it down to what the tasker wants. They cannot fail. It's fail proof.
You obviously haven't worked in an operational.
Give me an operational target, blind.
I'll give you one. Listen, I'll give you one today. I got one given to me. It's actually a closed case that Angela did with, I don't know, it was
I can
NCR or
do
CIA.
those. I can give you a map location. I can.
Yeah, well, you got
See, that's
15
front
minutes.
load.
You got
I don't
15
do
minutes.
stress. I don't do stress.
Well, see, the thing about front loading is you can't look at it as front loading. You have to look at it as said, which is narrowing. It's narrowing. It's taking a topic and you're honing in on it. That's what Ed May explained to me very clearly. He says to me, Jimmy, I'm going to tell you, the test you're going to take now, there's no people in it. There's no machinery. There's no buildings. There's no structure. There's no movement. And he named about 10 different other things. And I'm like, what the hell is this target going to be? And then he said, go ahead, describe it. And you got 5-10 minutes to write it down. The object of it is to, in your head, to focus so clearly and focus just on what he's trying to get you to pick in the future. Because it's a future target is computer picks.
I mean, I get it,
That's the same
Jimmy.
idea.
If a target is a missing person, obviously doesn't matter how much help you get. If you find the location, you got it, you did it, obviously, because it is an unknown in the end. But I've seen operational viewers who are very proud of themselves, literally, in my opinion, fail a session, but they get help and they get help and retry until, if they were sitting by themselves, they would have failed. See, my problem is I'm very strict on the protocol because that's all we have. Otherwise, we're back to doing fortune telling. Blind condition is all we have.
Yeah,
Well, you're
but
working
And
for
there's
if you're
a
good at fortune
line.
telling, if you're good at fortune telling, it doesn't matter. But the object is we're trying to hone in on a skill that we all have. No matter what the training method is, no matter what you want to call it, name-wise or word-wise, we're training our brains to get the data. That's all we care about is usable operational data.
It can
places
be
of-
gotten through cold reading and other things. See, I come from skepticism as well in science.
Can I just say, Anita, real quick here?
Yeah.
I'm not shy about that. I do consider myself good at this, but you know what? I'm also going to say I do miss targets. They're misses. It's not displacement. They're misses.
And we all do.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's-
I
everyone
felt
misses
it.
targets.
Everyone does. That's
yeah,
okay.
that's normal.
Not so you talk about help and stuff. I freely admit I miss targets, and they're clearly misses. They're not
Yeah, but
displacements.
when you
They're-
miss
they're-
a target, you don't get a retask. They tell you, okay, you failed
Yeah.
that one. Would you like
But-
to have
but-
another go?
Yeah, and if I didn't, I'll tell you, if I didn't
Yeah.
admit to that, if I didn't admit to myself that was a miss, it would not be helping me. I need to accept things like that. If I don't,
Absolutely.
it's gonna make me worse. Just my opinion.
And
Yeah, you
have
learn
better
more
remote
from
view,
mistakes.
You fail.
You
Fail,
do.
you pick yourself up, you do it again. You try to learn from your mistakes you may have made. I mean, I'm always learning. I'm not perfect at anything. And it's just that you have to change your mindset. That's one of the things I've learned from Ed May. I mean, he made it very clear to me. It's not easy. This is not easy at all.
I can understand where Anita's coming from in some regards.
Thank you.
But there's two different parts to remote viewing. There's the okay, we need to prove it's Psi and RV, and then there's the other side where is you're working a target for for the police or something. They, like Jimmy says, they want the information, they want it fast. There's a timing cost element to it, and with all the things, like half the things I'm doing for like crypto viewing, knowing it's a crypto, I don't think that hinders or wrecks the RV data. It just allows me to know, okay, it's a crypto. They want financial information. I'm going to do charts. I'm going to do this, that, the other. So it allows me to focus and morph my RV in a different way to provide very specific information for that type of client. I don't think it's telling me anything about the target whatsoever. I don't come back and say, okay, guys, the target's a crypto. I want a point for that. Because you can't do that because you've been told it's a crypto. But by drawing the logo, the CEO, the team, the technology, the users, where it's being used in the world. That's all data that knowing it's a crypto doesn't tell me. But yeah, I think front loading works very well in operations because, as I said, when Jimmy does missing people, and when I did missing people, I always knew I was looking for a missing person. But that knowing it was a missing person did not tell me, because what I had to provide the police was location details. Knowing it was a missing person did not tell me anything about the missing person's location. But what it did allow me to do is to put into play tools like dowsing and triangulation, stuff like that, to allow me to get locational details. If they just gave me a number and said, okay, your target's number is XX8666, do your thing, I would have probably had to do 2 or 3 RV sessions before they came back to me and said, look, all we want is location data. We don't want to know about structures or about life forms or any of this. We just want a location, provide a location.
I agree with that because I use it as well. But the thing with operational viewers, often they have a person like a monitor, which is saying, okay, don't look at that, go look at this thing. And then they look at that and describe something. And it's like 20 questions. And then if they fail and they don't get the thing you're looking for, they get another nudge or they get a retask and a retask. It's, in my opinion, it's going in towards not being blind or remote viewing, and scientists and skeptics would never accept this ever. And I also can't.
Operational remote viewing isn't for scientists or skeptics, though. It's to provide data to the client.
Then it's not for me either. I mean, I can understand.
So you wouldn't work a missing persons case then?
I would.
But what happens if the police said, came back to you and said, okay, you didn't quite get their location, but we like your sketch on page 6 where you drew a lake. Can you draw it again and try to mark an X on it? You'd say, no, I can't do that.
I don't know about that application. Maybe in this one, it's fine because there's still an unknown. But like other targets I see operational viewers do, it just doesn't.
You'd have to give me examples.
I cannot.
Anita?
I
don't use a monitor. Who are these monitors? Who are?
I can't name names. People will get very hurt.
No one uses a monitor. I've never in my life had a monitor or used a monitor in 27 years.
I'll tell you. Listen, Anita, Ed May was a monitor a couple times for me, and this is what he did to me. This is what he said. This is how a professional guy who's been doing it for fucking 40 years. This is a real deal guy. He said to me, "Okay, Jimmy, do your tasking, whatever, you got 10 minutes, whatever." And I started doing it, and he said, "Okay, how are you making?" I said, "I'm done, Ed." He says, "Great, now go 500 feet above the target, look down at it quick. What do you see? Write it down quick." And I said, "Okay, I wrote it down." "Okay, now go back 100 yards, stop." It's very strict to the point, and that's it. And then he'll say, "Okay, now I want you to do one more thing. Whatever comes in your mind right now, your end session, before you write it down, write down whatever comes in your head. That's it." I said, "Okay." And they write it down. And he said, "That's it. Send it to me now." That's how real operational work works. It's a different level. It's also stressful. I think Daz will admit to that it's not a relaxed sometimes environment. Now we can relax afterwards, but when you're there, they want the data. That's all they want. They don't care about anything else. If you have a monitor, I've never had a monitor except Ed May one time or 2 times. Angela doesn't monitor me. She just says, "Go. Find the person. You got 15 minutes. If you have any questions, don't ask me now." It's just to the point. This is real world. This is how it works in the big game. And it's not for everybody. I've had some doubts about it because it's stressful. But if you can do it and without feeling horrible, get over that feeling. Today, I felt horrible because I was doing a missing person child case, and I felt the aesthetic impact of the poor child got abducted by a sex offender, and I felt the feelings. I told Angela, I said, "I don't know if I'm cut off to do this." And she says, "Why?" And I said, "Because I feel ill from the stress of poor little boy got abducted." And he said, "That's excellent. That's what you want. You want to make the connection. You want to get the little small things involved in the case." And I said, "Well, I'm not sure if I'm cut out for some of this stuff." Because that's okay though. You'll learn to adapt to it. Your body will, and your nervous system, and the stress level will eventually go down. But this is real world. I mean, I never knew this before a couple of years ago when I started or anything, but this is how it's like in the real world. It's not easy. It's hard. I mean, Joe McMonagle have said numerous times, when you do operational stuff for these governments and agencies, you literally sell your soul, because they demand, when you're feeling ill and sick, they demand work from you. And you either provide or you're not in the program no more, or whatever you're doing. Unfortunately, it's not the way we think it is, which is, Daz is nice enough to spend time to do a target. We can spend a week on it and back and forth, and it's not as stressful. It's not. It's the real world stuff. Is in the moment now, either provide information or you're down the road, and that's it, period. They don't care. That's how it is. And that's unfortunately the way it works.
But I see things like, sorry to add, I see things like operational viewers cannot seem to even know by themselves, fully blind on their own, what the main element of a target is without being told or hinted. Like, where's the independent work? Like, people are getting too comfortable with having someone help them and tell them, okay, this is the main element. It's a technology. Like, can't you just feel it from the signal that it's the main element, that it shows up first? It's repetitive. It's a stronger signal that when you probe the life form, it shows you the technology, so you know it's the main element. Why do you always need a tasker to tell you everything?
Oh, you don't.
Say, like, I've thought about this because working on my own, like Daz said, just never having a monitor. But, it might help to have a monitor, because I can't think of all the questions that might be had around the data feedback that I'm giving. And another person might think of something that I'm not thinking of, like where I should position myself. Like, I don't think I should, it never occurs to me to go 50 meters into the air and look down. I usually follow my ideogram. Usually the ideogram that I write, it tells me where I am also. So the ideogram moves me around, but it would be nice to have a tasker maybe to help me get more data, because that's what I really think the tasker is about. It's about trying to focus you, and it's not giving you anything. It's sort of taking what you're giving and trying to get you to open up that aperture in that area a little more, give that area a little more attention. But they're not really, I don't think, Anita, they're giving the remote view or anything. I think they're helping, because if you're in theta, I mean, you're half asleep, and it's hard to really think, as you get deeper into your target. It can help to have some guidance, but it is a fine line, and you need a tasker that's not going to cross that line and start giving you stuff and cheating. But yeah, like, I think that's an area where you would have to be very careful as a scientist, but I mean, I loved the session with Ingo, and I forget who it was, about the moon. And it's just so casual. I mean, Ingo just says, well, here I'm seeing, this. And so the tasker's like, well, what about this? And then it's very casual. There's no ulterior motive. They're just trying to find out what's there. And the tasker kind of helps. I mean, you can do it all by yourself, but why not have some help, I guess, is what I'm thinking. Like, that's
excuse me just for a second. Anita, you keep using this term, operational remote viewers. Outside of Lori Williams bringing her husband from target to target to do these monitored sessions, who are these groups that are doing this? There's nobody I know of that is doing that.
I'm not saying names. I see it all the time. I've been 5 years around. I see it.
I mean, I know
I see operational viewers using protocols that I, as an outsider coming from science education and 10 years in the skeptical movement, I see, okay, it's no longer
I'm just
a scientific protocol.
The only one I know of is Lori. Lori is the only one I know. I mean, other people use them casually, but like operationally as a group,
everyone's doing it.
She's the only person that comes to mind. I don't know of anyone else.
I see lots of people.
I'm not doing
saying
it.
Names. You are doing it. Dave, I've seen you do it. Don't make me say that.
I've done monitored
Dave,
sessions.
don't make me say it. Don't make me say it.
I've done monitored sessions, but don't make me say what?
Don't make me say it.
Don't make me say what?
name names and examples.
If I have a monitor,
Everyone's gonna hate me.
session,
I'm gonna be blocked everywhere tomorrow morning.
everybody, if I have a monitored session, there's a monitor's name on my title sheet. Otherwise, I don't have a monitor. And operationally, I don't use them unless it's required.
I see
I don't use them.
operational viewers doing good sessions, which if they were working alone, just as viewer with a signal, fully blind, would have failed. But because they get help and nudges and help and nudges and retask and do this, do that, don't go there, they do a good session. I see it all the time. And it's not a scientific protocol.
Well,
in my book, it's a fail. Don't make me
I've been
name
Can I
pretty
just
transparent
intercept,
with my
like real
stuff.
operational target work you are not going to see, because those are NDE protected real operational client work and people are not going to share that. So I just wonder, where do you see real operational target work? Because trust me,
Oh, it's posted.
no
We
one
don't-
is going to post them on Facebook.
Oh, they do. We see
No,
all
they
I mean,
don't.
I
No,
want to know
they
really
don't.
what target specifically you're talking about, because it's kind of insulting. I mean,
I know it's
pretty hard at
insulting.
this.
That's why I'm not naming examples.
Hey, guys, we've been on this for a long time and people got
Yeah.
their hands up.
I think Henny had her hands up first. Is it to do with this, Henny, or is it a different topic?
No, absolutely nothing to do with that one. I wanted to go back to Dimi's question and have a follow-up question on that. From what I understood in your answer, you were referring to trying to be somewhat abstract in your tasking when there is like an uncertainty in the target. Let's say, for example, when you said that, okay, you are not going to say iPhone, but the most used customer technology in 30 years. How would you approach targets when we are working with a lot of uncertainty? Like, let's say, what if I want to task a way of feasible interstellar travel? I'm just giving an example. And today, popular culture would say, okay, you need to have faster than light engines for that. So if I go and say, okay, give me a solution to a faster than light engine, and it turns out that the technology that allows for example, long distance interstellar travel is not at all faster than light engines, but whatever, some kind of other technology, I screwed up the entire tasking. So how would you deal with that level of uncertainty when you are trying to look for future things, but still keep it specific enough so that the viewers understand what your target is?
Good question, and I would probably spend a good couple of hours trying to work a way around it. Off the top of my head, I would not try to name the technology that I would be looking for. So I would probably say, well, would it be faster than light travel? I would probably say something like, the viewers to look for at the most dominant faster than light technology used for space travel in the from Earth in the year, and then I would pick probably a year that so far into the future that I think that we'd be able to have that kind of technology. So maybe something like 150 years in the future or something, and try to see if I could do it that way.
Another question that comes back from this one is, how do we make sure that the technology, let's say, okay, let's say that there is a technology like that and the remote viewers do find it, but if I give it like a big distance, like a big time distance, how do I ensure that the remote viewers are not going to stand there and just think, oh, this is fucking magic, and all they understand from the target is weird technology and energetics, so that there is valuable information brought back, not just like, oh, this is so fun.
Well, I think that comes from you and your intent in what you get down on the paper when you're thinking of constructing it, your research, and sometimes on my targets I do write down, my intent. So I intend for the remote viewer to bring back X information, or intent, my belief system on this is such and such, so the viewer may be affected by this. I do actually write that down and try to consolidate my intent, my thoughts, my beliefs, and my knowledge. If you're there tasking a target for a future technology, you obviously have an interest in that future technology, so you're the biggest anchor point to that, to keep them on track and not going off on, oh wow, this is magical, hopefully.
And would you keep because I know that your tasking is usually a what, when, and the where, would you keep, for example, the where, the location component, or could we omit some of the components of the 3 legs?
Yeah, as you're moving, and I wouldn't recommend going that far. I wouldn't recommend going far ahead, because every experiment I've done where you go that far ahead, it gets fuzzier and fuzzier and fuzzier accuracy wise. But yeah, on some of those targets, you because you don't know the where, you would have to omit it. And I tried to omit when I was talking about the Apple thing, because I was thinking, well, 30 years in ahead, they might not be called iPhones. The company might not be called Apple. So you'd have to try to make it, you have to try to forward think that in advance. You wouldn't want to refer, what's the iPhone going to be like made by Apple in 30 years? That's too leading, because Apple might not be around in 30 years and it might not be called an iPhone. So you'd have to use other words to describe the technology, so that you don't lead the viewer down a path that doesn't exist.
Thank you.
But future targets, I would be very happy and very easy to do future targets 5 years ahead, and name Apple and iPhones 5 years ahead, because I think that would be most probably be happening. But 30, 40 years, I think a lot could change in that time. Mm-hmm. And I don't think you'd be able to name company names and product names that far ahead. You'd have to be very careful how you name things, because as we know as well, viewers can also pick up on non-real information, ideas, fallacies, myths, and all that kind of stuff. So if you're implanting the idea of an iPhone by Apple 30 years in the future, you might be creating the fallacy of that, or the myth of that they pick up on, not the reality of what might happen. So it gets ever so more complicated.
Thank you.
Excellent. So the next person had their hand up is CED, and I think I have to unmute his microphone here. Bear with me a sec if I can do that. I don't even know if I can. Yeah, I can't unmute your microphone from this end. Bear with me a sec. I got a message here, so when I raise my hand, please unmute my operator ASL interpreter. I don't know how I can unmute that.
It is another connection. So you would have to go through the participants and find the number 164747 and unmute that one as well, because CD will need that one.
Yeah, the thing is, even though I'm an admin, I have no unmute abilities.
Oh.
I can ask people to unmute, but I can't actually unmute. Bear with me, I'm having a look here. No, I can't do any. I can't unmute anyone.
He's unmuted now. He talked earlier.
And if you maybe click on ask to unmute, and then something would pop up for him, so he can just click on the button.
Yeah, I've done that. Ask to unmute.
Unmuted. Okay,
how about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. Okay, this is the interpreter speaking.
Hi there.
Okay, he says, thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me to be involved in this. My name is Christian El Rondo. Sorry, I might have said that wrong. Everybody calls me CD. Thank you very much for I'm using a video, remote video interpreter, so that's why you can hear her voice because I'm using sign language. But there's different facets and different kinds of technology, right? So for me, my background is strong in information technology. So I've been working in IT and healthcare agencies, and also mental health advocate for my clients who in the past were maybe incarcerated and they need some therapies. Anyway, I've been very interested in sharing my experience with all of you, and then maybe that experience will help target and then find the correct person. 7 years ago, one of my friends asked me, they needed my help. Can you find a missing person? So, okay. So they told me, we sat down, we were very calm, and nothing on the mind, just the concept of peace. Try to empty your mind, try to ignore any sounds that you can hear, and have a visualization telepathically, or have a picture in your mind of all 60 billion, sorry, 60 billion, sorry, that was an interpreter error, 60 billion reports, all of the things, all the synapses in your mind, all of the data that goes around in your mind. If you can see that, if you can start to open your mind, and see, like, kind of in a small bubble, or imagine the bubble and open your mind and see. We did that for 30 seconds, and to have thought pop up and disappear, and see if we can get that thought to remain for more than 3 seconds. And we really focused this exercise, and then it was kind of like looking through their mind, and kind of like make a bridge to this portal, if you will, or to see what they can see and what they can visualize. And it's so easy to forget. So I had them write down anything that they could see or explain, and any feelings that were anchored to that. And okay, visualize an airplane. What do you see? Do you see people? Do you see, what does it look like if it was the 1980s? And this kind of practice exercise. What about the weather? Can you feel it? Can you hear it? Can you smell it before it goes missing? And all of the things that are bottled up inside someone, if they could feel, when something happened, what was the event before they went missing, and have everything written down, and then showed my friend, and they showed another friend, and they were like, yeah. I mean, this is where we can look. And then there was this bridge, and under the bridge, they looked under the bridge, and sure enough, there was a homeless camp, and the friend looked through the camp and found the missing person. They were laying there and looked up, and they were absolutely stunned. And like, how did you know where I was? How did you find me? How did you know? And my friend said, well, my friend helped me. He has a background in this kind of thing, and he helped me, open my mind and find you. And it was quite the process, and everybody was happy. And that's how I kind of started finding this ability or practice or what have you. And I've been using it to help people find missing persons or where they're things, and it's been very enjoyable. But anyway, that's my story. Thank you for letting me share that thought, and that's all for now.
Excellent, CD, and thank you very much for sharing that with us. Next up, Pat, you've had your hand up. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Just a quick one. Operational viewer. What does that mean? I help people find objects. It's Kamikaze on Josh. He'll tell you. I found his son's soft toy. The Lanny. Is that operational? His son's like 2. To him, it's very important where his toy is. I sorted that. I helped him find it. To me, that's operational. That's just as valid as finding someone that's missing. because I helped somebody. So if you're saying I can't do this, well, screw you. I'm done.
Thanks for sharing that, Pat. We're slowly coming up on 2 hours here, so let's move through some of these and spend the last 10-15 minutes. Sasha, you got your hand up next.
Hi, Des. Thank you.
Hi there.
I have a quick question for you, for anybody else who has experience with this. I'm wondering about the difference between taskers who will put together information about the target versus those that don't. If the tasker has put together their research, and then the remote viewers can either go to the tasker's data package and look for the information there, or they can go to the target, or they can do both. And so the data might be more accessible. But I'm wondering, does creating that stronger connection to the data by assembling the data, does it improve the prediction accuracy for data that's not in the tasker's research? Because if it does, then that's a powerful tool. And if it doesn't, then that's interesting to know, right? And I don't have an opinion. I don't know either way. I'm curious because this is something that more people are kind of looking into. And so I just wondered if anybody has any opinions on it.
All I can offer on that is I don't do an awful lot myself in putting a package together, but there are papers, SRI, or was it Ed May? It might be an SAIC, did a paper, the role of feedback in remote viewing accuracy. And they did try different types of feedback, you know, extensive feedback, no feedback, video feedback, audio feedback. And I think they found, you know, I think I probably put my hand on the paper. I think they found that the role of feedback has absolutely no effect whatsoever on the remote viewing data being recorded or given by the viewer.
That's good to know. Yeah.
But I don't know if, you know, if there's any other research since or any other anecdotal information. I try not to put a big pack of information together because I'm worried that if I did that, then the remote viewer might be tempted to just remote view the feedback rather than the information.
Yeah, that's why I'm wondering, because if it makes the target itself more luminous, then I want to do that so that the remote viewers can go and get unknown data beyond what I've put together. But if I'm in some way hindering their ability because then they're just coming to my mind from preparing that package, then I want to stay away from that. And I don't know which one is better. And I haven't seen a lot of conversations about it recently, maybe. So I'm just wondering if other people have started trying the different ways. And
that's all I have on it, I'm afraid. I don't know if anyone else has any experience on that at all. Anyone? I'm guessing no on that one. No, I can find out the paper for you, the feedback paper. I'm sure it was SAIC rather than SRI because they did a lot more scientific work. But again, it's probably 20-30 years old. But yeah, that would be my fear, is the more of a feedback package I created, the more they might just RV the data package that they get in the end rather than the real data. And, you know, I might get the wrong data as well.
Or then you might overly trust their sessions because then their sessions are amazing. And then the unknown data or the predictions might be wrong, right? And then you have more trust than you should. It's such a tricky one. But thank you. Thank you for the information.
Yeah, no worries. Anita, go for it.
So sorry about being so passionate about the scientific method. There's a spectrum. I'm on the strict side of it. I think we can all agree, however, if you think about it, it's when you have a target which has an unknown, such as a missing person's location, if the remote viewer reaches it, sure. Front loading, retasking, you answered a question which nobody knew. It's okay. However, the problem is so many sessions and targets which are mysteries, such as the Roswell UFO crash. We can all agree, if we think about it, it's possible to cheat your way into a beautiful masterpiece session. In sessions which remain speculative, where there is no feedback, you can bullshit your way together with a monitor, tasker, analyst, whoever, and just build something beautiful together and just, oh, you list building, technology, life form. Oh, go to the technology. Okay, UFOs, everybody likes to say UFO, AOL. Oh, go there, do this, do that, and it sounds plausible. You know, it's possible to craft some beautifully sounding report, which wasn't remote viewed necessarily, because you get front loading, retasking, monitor, whatever it's called. So, I mean, it ceases to be remote viewing. It's a real danger and a risk. We have to defend the blind protocol as far as we can. I'm very passionate about it. So, yeah.
Just a quick jump here from me, if I may.
Yeah, go for it.
I do recall when I think a year ago we have Daz set up a project which was about the Chinese rockets launch, like I think 1 year ago, and some of us did really good on that, and some of us were retasked on that. But I do recall that I came back with absolutely excellent information and even draws of the rockets, which still amaze me today. I don't think I ever came up back with this kind of data. But I just want to say that it is kind of a front loaded, but you would never think that you have not an alien or a spaceship when you see that it's up in the air, it's flying, it's above Earth, and so on and so on. So you have like millions of other possibilities to have in that front loaded without going directly to the target. And I am scared like shit when I'm talking about front loaded, so I know what I'm talking about. So yeah, sorry about my word.
Anita, I do understand your concerns. All I can say is when I retask a remote viewer, I'm very, very careful on how I retask, and I only retask in like a sentence. And so I will just say, something like, your page 6 data, get me more, or you did a sketch on page 6, get me more. I never retask. I understand what you're saying, and I'm sure there are people out there that might accidentally, or might, I can't say if they're doing it on purpose, but they might accidentally abuse how they retask. It could be quite easy to slip and put you and your intentions, your beliefs, your information into the retasking. So it is a balancing act, and you have to be very careful and use it very minimally. Which is why I only ever retask a viewer to look at data that they've already come up with. And sometimes I've even retasked them to look at data that they come up with, to throw that data away because I knew it was the data I didn't want.
But even that can be dangerous. Like if it's a speculative session, you can create masterpieces with people without even using remote viewing, just by saying, okay, go to this data that you had, elaborate on this, and you're constantly guiding them.
It's their data, it's not your data. If you drew a sketch of a river and I said to you, go get me more data on that, well, how have I infected you? What have I told you more than your river data with me saying, go and get me more data?
But if they have a river and they have technology, they have everything in their report, and you say, go to the river. Okay. And then they say something, and then
I didn't give them the river, they gave me the river.
But you see how this could be used. Even someone without remote viewing could use this to create something that sounds plausible, which sounds like it's exactly what you wanted from the session, but it was achieved by cheating, basically, not by remote viewing.
I think you're just a little bitter, honestly.
Bitter.
Also, I mean, you're forgetting things like, let's say we are doing a remote viewing session, and let's say it's a practice target, and let's say I'm your monitor, and let's say I know your target, and you come up with a data, and it's not on the feedback, it's not part of the target. And I tell you, okay, you say, okay, I see a lake. And I tell you, okay, go and tell me more about that lake. And you go there and you probe it, and it turns out it's not a lake. But for example, it's a patch of snow or ice. Did I veer you in any kind of direction? I mean, it's your responsibility to probe the target. You might say things, saying a lake would be actually an analytic overlay or a stray cat. It's your responsibility, and that's always pounds it in our head. If you see something, even if you think you know what it is, go and probe it, touch it, and refine the data. Your monitor is not there to tell you or to make sure that you are verifying the data. Your monitor is guiding you to points that you might want to explore further with your probes. And you might go back on your own data by a move and say, okay, you know what? I thought this is a lake, but it's powdery, it's white, it's cold. It is probably something like a patch of snow. So you are in control. It's not your monitor that is controlling you in these sessions.
But I know, I understand the use, but it's a risk on the scientific protocol, because you can always push, okay, go to this thing, elaborate here and here. A person can create exactly what the monitor wants, and it will end up sounding exactly like a good session, but it wasn't, you know.
But if your monitor is blind also, it also has the risk of veering you off target.
If the monitor is blind, sounds better, but usually they're not.
Also with retasking, I think Sasha can elaborate, but there's a way to retask where you are not using any kind of data. You are just assigning another letter or alphanumeric string.
Why isn't the main element showing up more often or with emphasis, so to where you don't need someone to tell you to go there?
What are you referring to? Usually people who have like training, they do go and they do look at all kinds of gestalts in the target. Why wouldn't it show up? You couldn't be
why wouldn't they know?
You couldn't be retasked on something that's not in your session.
Yeah, but why doesn't the viewer know that this is the main element? Why doesn't it have a stronger signal? Why do you have to be told by someone that this is the element? Well, usually they are.
Like most remote viewers come up with gestures, you know, so, you know, it'd be like there's land, there's life, there's structures, there's air and water, and they'll go into some degree of describing each of those. But, you know, the actual tasker themselves might have a specific focus on just one of those. But the remote viewers come up with that data on their own.
I can give you a very practical and operational answer to your question, Anita. Let's say the target is some kind of accident, an accident that involves a vehicle and biologicals. And the remote viewer is describing the accident, the biological, where they are coming from, what is happening. But the target is actually what caused the accident. And the biological might, or the remote viewer might give you information regarding, okay, there is something with the brake. I'm just making this example up. And then they have a veering turn and they fall off the road and they survive. So is your remote viewer on target? Yes. Is your remote viewer giving you specific enough information? No. Would you want to retask? Okay, tell me what's with the brakes. I want to know what's with the brakes because my target is, so you have to focus on a very specific aspect of the target. That's not saying the remote viewer is not on target, but if you are viewing a target like that with biologicals, a lot of motion, high and emotional intensity, there is no way your first response as a viewer will be, oh, I have to look at every minute detail of the vehicle. because that's not how.
But the signal has an emphasis on the main elements. Like you would be able, no?
Not necessarily. There might be a lot going on, and there might be other things at the target as well. Like, for example, if we use the accident scenario that Henny just went through, the tasker might want to know what caused the accident, but us as viewers, we're led to numerous events. So if the energy, the activity, the entropy of the actual accident itself, the carnage, the person being injured, maybe there's a fire, that would attract us more as remote viewers than looking at the cause of the accident, which might be a slipped disc on a brake, because it's an entropy event. And as remote viewers, that's what guides us. It's like when you go hunting, any kind of movement in your field of vision is what your eyes go to, and that's the same as remote viewers. Entropy and things of interest get you, rather than the real part of the target, which is specific information.
Did you realize that if a viewer works completely alone with no guidance, no task, a retask or anything, and describes, let's say, a crashed airplane, describes the airplane and the technology and whatever, and the crash, that's more impressive doing it alone than if someone had to tell you that
it's impressive if you want to prove to someone that remote viewing exists, but I think you're getting the two confused here. There's proving that RV exists totally under absolutely ironclad, blind remote viewing scientific conditions.
So
then there's using remote viewing in the real world to get specific information for clients, and that's
is it not possible, is it not possible then that cheating, a source that is not remote viewing, a source that is cheating, becomes a source, a partial source at least, of some of the data in the report, especially when it's real world operational and you have someone paying for a project? Have you eliminated the possibility of using cold reading and all of these things that are not RV?
You're still doing it blind, you're still doing it solo.
But Anita, I would like to ask you some questions, because it seems to me, I don't know if it's that, I don't know what your experiences are of remote viewing, but in my experience, I don't feel that I am connecting to a data stream that is made for humans or by humans, or that thinks exactly like humans do. So what the data stream that I interact with might be different from what you're interacting with, but what I interact with has its own way of understanding and communicating. And I have to figure out how there has to be some mechanism of translation. And so the data stream has the information and I have to grab that information, and then my mind has to make sense of it. And sometimes it uses metaphor, sometimes it's a literal representation. Sometimes it's like, okay, the closest thing in your brain to the target is this weird thing that you saw when you were 7. And that's not what the target is, but it's the closest I can find. So I'm going to trigger that memory and hope you do something with it. And so I think that you seem to have this perspective that you're interacting with something that speaks in human language and understands in human ways. In my experience, that's not the case. So if I ask it, okay, I want to know about an accident, or the cause of the accident, right? But I don't actually know that that's what I'm looking for. I just have my target ID. What I find is that it doesn't necessarily always agree maybe with what you personally, Anita, might think is the most important thing at that target. So for example, if I worked at a target, quantum computer in the future, what's the one that's going to work out best? Some people are going to describe the aluminum, the metal, the silicon, the transistors, the capacitors. That is accurate and true data. That's the quantum computer of the future. If it incorporates biological elements like DNA, other people are going to describe, oh, I can see DNA, I can see these helixes. Are they wrong? Did the data stream lie to them? No, because the data stream doesn't seem to necessarily agree with what you, Anita, thinks is the most important aspect of the target. So when you're saying that the data stream somehow knows what the main element is, no, it doesn't, because you and I probably would not agree on what the the main element is. What's most important about the quantum computer of the future when I tell you how does it work? Is it the human who interacts with it? Is it the biological components? Is it the transistors? Is it the design? Is it the setup? Right? Like the accident that was caused, Daz was describing the brake pads. Is it the brake pads that were kind of, they didn't work very well? Was it that the driver just wasn't quite paying attention for a fraction of a second? What's the real cause of that accident? And does the system know what you mean when you say what's the truth of the real cause, right? And so I think what you're asking for, I don't know if that actually exists. This idea that the remote viewer should be able to.
It does in my remote viewing. I mean, I have elements, I don't use it.
Targets maybe, like if you're just doing people, then yeah, if you're asking the data stream, tell me about Henny, it's gonna, okay, I can get information about Henny. But if I'm asking for something really complex, then I don't think that the data stream necessarily knows or prioritizes in human ways what's true or what's the most important aspect of the target. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
So here's a way actually to explain. Imagine someone who is not a remote viewer at all and is not remote viewing. In some cases, they can create a really good text report with the help of a good tasker doing some really good operational sessions, if you see what I'm saying. They could bullshit their way through it and get a really good report if they're always told, give me more about this thing, give me more about this thing, what is this? So they could do it. If you see my problem, there's a way. I'm not saying that's what we're doing with operational. I'm saying there's a risk. We have this danger of inserting this error. This thing will devastate RV.
As we said with you, it's possible.
I don't know if they could really get away with it.
Oh, they do. I've seen sessions like that.
Well,
I've seen sessions.
A few, but I mean, on a large scale, I think it would become obvious fairly quickly who the cheaters are and who aren't. And I think maybe if that's what you're seeing, you may be seeing a few cheaters and
they're not aware. They think it's remote viewing and it's not. I've seen sessions where they would have failed, but with the help of a good tasker, they create a masterpiece.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There may be a few people that do that, but I think that I don't think they're going to get away with it.
Oh, they do, because it's an acceptable behavior. It's the advanced level, you see. I know it sounds horrible, but
you're seeing it very clearly.
Work in the real world.
A lot of people would see
high-level remote viewing. Sasha, I have a quick question for you. I like your word you used, data streams. Is that a Tom Campbell phrase or a metaphor?
Sorry, which one?
Data streams.
Oh,
Tom Campbell uses that. He's the physicist guy there.
That's just a Sasha word.
Oh, okay.
I don't know where you picked it up somewhere along the way.
Tom Campbell, the simulation theory, theory of everything. Also Monroe Institute, scientist guy, uses that terminology, and I'm starting to incorporate it because I believe that too. I believe the information is separate and stuff like that. So it comes in streams and stuff. So that's an interesting word.
I think for me, it really, it has that idea that it's not necessarily, I don't know that it was designed specifically for how we think right now in the present moment, right? And I think that's why sometimes it's hard to, sometimes we get data in weird ways, maybe.
And didn't you have a question a while ago about whether there's only one data stream or maybe that there may be more than one? I remember you asking that. That was a really good question because that's something I don't think is known either. Like how many data streams are there? Right? Are there infinite data streams maybe? I don't know.
Yes, if you believe Tom Campbell, the physicist, that's where I can put in, like I'm not a UFO guy or an alien guy myself personally, but when I have a session that has that in it, I can now put it into a data stream folder in my head saying, okay, I can make sense of this and put it over here. And that's how I look at it now. So I don't have to be so biased saying, I don't think aliens and UFOs are visiting me or that type of thing.
Well, I have to say,
rationalize it now and put it over here.
Jimmy,
it's a stream of data.
Courtney Brown talks about this, and he talks about how sometimes the viewers are not able to reach the target to see the aliens. They're blocked. And so then he puts into the tasking that they should be able to get around the block. And then they do. So he kind of fiddles a bit with the data stream and the tasking, and he says, just go around that. And they do, and then they hit the target, you know, on the retasking. So
That happened to me in the Tunguska project, where, you know, people were getting overheated. Tunguska is this 1908 explosion, and you know, it was like an atomic bomb, but
I saw
nobody
the
had
video
it.
on that. Very
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah. So anyway, there was a retasking where he said move to a position where you would not be affected by anything,
Yeah.
and that worked. I
For some
seem
reason. You know?
my second session seemed to be from outer space looking down. It's interesting. Yeah.
Very interesting. Huh?
Excellent. Well, we're approaching 2.25 hours, guys, so I think we should stop there. But it's been a really interesting discussion, you know, and you know, we don't all have to agree on everything, as we don't within remote viewing. And maybe we can, you know, pick up some of these conversations, you know, in August sometime and look at them a bit more in depth. I'm happy to do that. But it's been great chatting to you all this evening. Thanks for coming.
Good fun.
I'll get this up online for the people that couldn't attend, you know, over the next couple of days. Have a great weekend ahead, guys.
Great weekend, guys. Thank you.
You
Yeah,
too.
thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Take care.
Okay, thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
See you, Anita. Good to see you.
Bye,
See you,
everyone.
Sasha. Really good to see you. See you, everybody.